Hey there, everybody. Let me get rid of that. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I'm Dave Valente. Tonight is a free for all Sunday, so I'll just go ahead and bring in my guest host. I'm broadcasting to TikTok. Hi, everybody on TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. We'll talk about Facebook in a moment. We all knew that it was too good to be true. How's it going, everybody? Joining us from Tennessee, AJ. How you doing, AJ?
I'm doing very well. How are y'all?
Doing well. And joining us from the great state of Maryland, the Dan, the myth, the legend, Dan Fishman. How you doing, Dan?
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. Yes. So,
What's up, guys? AJ,
yeah.
I'm glad you're back on the show.
Yes, we did. We missed you
Well,
last week.
Yeah.
thank you very much. I don't know. I turned 40 and everything started falling apart. So
I know that
we'll,
feeling.
we'll see if we can't get it put back together.
Well, let me tell you, at 50, it all comes back together. So
There you go.
Neat. Neat. Only 10 years until then. That's great.
Yeah. So, free for all this week. As you saw, as we were going up the lead up to this, we're going to get up again. All kinds of noises, all kinds of feelings. If you're out there on YouTube watching, wherever you're watching from, hop on over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Papaduke, Papaduke. And give us a like, a share, a subscribe, all that fun stuff. There we go. That is my YouTube channel. Uh, Here's the thing 100 YouTube subscribers, I'm going to shave. I'm going to shave it all off. So that is my commitment to you all. I know it's scary. It's scary because you'll see the baby face come out again. But yeah, 100 YouTube subscribers, shaving the face. So not the head. Nobody wants to see me bald.
And winter's coming. So
Yeah, this is true.
winter is coming. Thanks,
Yeah,
Jon Snow.
yes.
I want to give
YouTube, 100 subscribers. Yep, Dan.
a quick shout out to all the members of Outright. First of all, you guys, you haven't posted anything new to your message board since September 4th. And in that are 2 links of mine for this show. So come on, guys. You got to get it going. I know there's somebody on here who's a member of Outright or knows somebody who's a board member of Outright. Get to your Facebook page, post our content, please.
Yes, please. Because we love Outright. Outright is awesome.
I believe that Tyler is a high muckety muck at Outright, right?
Yes, he
Outright,
is.
right?
Maybe.
Whatever it is. We certainly have had people on who have been in Outright. And come on, guys. We're with you, brother.
Word.
All right. Let's talk about our free for all.
Talk about people for liberty.
I'm getting the call. Yes, William. Charles. I will be prime minister. Yes. Sorry.
Nice. Nice.
I forget. I keep thinking that William's a king. And that ruined the joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Damn it. So is that the first thing we want to talk about?
Yeah, talk about People for Liberty. Tell us what's going on with the People for Liberty.
All right. Well, we got a bunch of exciting things happening. The biggest thing I think that the thing that I'm proudest of right now is the all liberty legislation. I think we have the largest collection of legislation that's in state houses that you can make a difference on right now. And especially with elections coming up, knowing some of the bills that are in your state house, calling people who are running for office and say, hey, I know you're trying to get elected and I want to know what you think about this bill. That can be a really useful thing to do. So if you go to peopleforliberty.org and then click on the legislation link, it's under, or just type in the legislation, but you click on one of the buttons, there's something, I think, action, and there's something that says legislation.
Yeah.
You'll see a link of all the legislation that we know of that's in state houses. Now, here's the thing. I say that we know of. There might be legislation that I don't know about, that our team doesn't know about yet. If so, you tell us about it. There's a button on there where you can tell us about other legislation. We want to be the go-to. There it is. See, look at that. And see, every place where it's gold, that means that there is pending liberty legislation, either for or against. And you click on that and it'll drill you in and take you a link of what's happening in that state. Oh, look, there's a debugging message on the page. I blame Dave for that. But there you go. So you can see all the things that are happening here. And, that's a critical thing. We want to have you guys get informed about the stuff that's happening and tell us about other things that are happening. Up at the top, Dave, you look this, you see a link that it says, if you know something else, tell us. How do I make this go full screen?
Yeah,
There
fill
it
out
is.
this
Fill
form.
Yeah,
out
fill out
this
this
form.
form. Yep. And if you click on that, it'll take you to a place where you can tell us about more legislation that's happening. And that's how, a lot of this stuff gets done. We have Celeste Garrett as our legislative director, but if you come through and you tell us more stuff. Now, the other thing about it is that we have a big list of people that we send our newsletter to. And if you're not signed up for it, that's easy to find on the page as well. But if you know about this legislation and you know about something, say, that's happening in Kentucky, when we send our newsletter to people in Kentucky, we tell them about the legislation in Kentucky. And so it's a great way to get people locally involved. Speaking of which, we are putting together a class in Home for Liberty, which is how to be a lobbyist. And believe it or not, it's really easy for you to be a lobbyist in a very simple way. Your local congressperson, your local state rep also has an office near you. Now, your state rep, their office might be in the state house or somewhere else. But if you get to that place, if you get to a place where you know something about legislation, you want to talk to somebody, you get on in person, you can be extremely effective. We cover all of that in our Home for Liberty class, how to be a lobbyist. That's going to be online in December. So sign up now for, yes, that's what I should have made my name, UK Prime Minister in Waiting. Sign up for our newsletter, hear about all this stuff. Let us get other people more involved, because here's the thing. We don't win this game if we just talk to ourselves. Okay. We don't make the world more free if the message of liberty, we keep preaching it to each other, because frankly, we all get it. We have to find a way to tell other people. And that means the legislation that's out there that affects a lot of people. If people see us fighting for their rights, for their liberty, and every piece of legislation that diminishes somebody's liberty is something that we should be opposing. If they see us out there fighting for them, they're like, hey, those guys are our allies. We want to work together with them on other stuff. That's how we do it. That's how we build alliances. That's how we win this game. So please sign up for the newsletter, get involved in our legislation project. And thanks for the time, Dave. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Love People for Liberty. Love hyping it up and letting people know about it, because it's a great organization and does good things. And
Shucks.
so, all right. So free for all to Sunday, where the first thing we're going to talk about is the UK Prime Minister du jour, Liz Truss. After 45 days, a whole 45 days in office as Prime Minister, uh, resigns. And it was a very tough 45 days for her. She went through a couple of Chancellor of the Exchequers, several economic plans, and no one seemed to like her.
Yeah, I mean, she stepped into a tough situation,
Yeah.
but I think she stepped into a tough situation where, there are all these classes balanced, and she's like, I've got this hammer that's going to fix this.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, just politically, if you had an overwhelming mandate, then yeah, you can stick to it. But they didn't, right? They were coming on the cusp of Boris Johnson essentially being removed, but his party staying in power. And so to answer your question, Craig, I see Craig saying, is the economy in Great Britain that bad? It's one of those things that we have this worldwide inflation. So there is a question right now as to whether or not the people in the UK will be able to afford heat over the winter. Now, here's the thing. Okay. Great Britain, like other countries in the world, if they wanted to, could crank up their coal production again.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, you can burn coal in a stove in your house. It works great. It's not the safest thing in the world for the environment and stuff like that. People are not going to freeze in Great Britain. However, they are an island. They have limited resources. They import a lot of stuff. And the British pound is really low right now. which is great for us. If we were go there on vacation, things are cheap, but it's terrible for them because all these things that they don't have on their island, their currency being devalued makes it much more expensive for them to buy those things. So the UK is having a tough time of it, but you know, I went to school in the UK for a year. I made some wonderful friends while I was there, and that is a nation with unbelievable character. You know,
Yeah.
whatever is the thing that they are asked to do, they do it and they soldier on. There's a wonderful movie that I would recommend to everybody called Children of Men. And if you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's just phenomenal. But one of the great things about it is that sort of this end of the world scenario happens and all the rest of the world goes to crap, but England soldiers on because that's just what they do. You know, you think about the Blitz, you think about the other things the English have survived. So they're in for a little bit of a rough time, but England, the UK will soldier on past this as well. The question just becomes, you know, how much of a society that is built on wealth and social welfare is going to survive that period. And I
So,
don't know.
I mean, I think with England and right now, it's an oddity of the system of British governance, well, of the parliamentary system, that you could have a leader fail that spectacularly, be removed, and you be nowhere near an election.
Right.
Britain, the Conservative Party does have enough of a legislative mandate, I guess, or at least number of legislators to keep power. They haven't, defected to other parties or anything like that. So there hasn't been there wasn't a vote of confidence on Truss officially. Um, so there isn't a mechanism right now outside of them just throwing up their hands and say, okay, we're calling an election. Um, so right now we're going to get the third conservative prime minister, and late today the headline from BBC was Johnson pulls out of the prime
Outstanding.
minister's race. There was a rumor that Boris Johnson was going to get back in and kind of pull that comeback like Winston Churchill was at one point a prime minister and left office and then came back. So, I mean, there's precedent for it, but Johnson, it's too soon. I mean, he was only gone a month and a half. So,
Right.
um, it looks
It's
like,
yeah, there is so I'm just looking. So the way the UK works is that they don't have to have another general election to determine who's in power until January 2025. So they have
Yep.
got quite a bit of time if they don't want to. The Conservatives can hold it out. Conservatives currently have 357 seats in the House.
Yep.
Labor is the next highest with 196. Then SNP, which is the Scottish Nationalist Party, who all libertarians should support because they want liberty, right? I mean, they're a little bit authoritarian in terms of what they want in Scotland, but they're trying to get independence from the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And then there's a smattering out there. There's 13 independents and a couple Greens and Sinn Féin and Plaid Cymru, for those of you who follow local
Welsh
Welsh,
party.
Welsh and Sinn Féin is the
Irish party,
Irish, yeah.
Northern Ireland party. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the Northern Ireland party or if it's like the Irish party because Sinn Féin, right, attacked Northern Ireland a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, but it represents the
It's not
Irish
the DUP, the
Unionist
DUP,
party.
the something Ulster party.
Ulster Unionist Party.
Yeah.
That represents generally the Protestant side of Northern Ireland.
Right.
The Sinn
DUP,
Féin
right,
represent
the Catholic
Sinn Féin
side,
represents the Catholic side. Yeah.
right. So it's an interesting scenario, but the Conservatives have such a majority that they don't have to worry about anybody else complaining. They can keep appointing prime ministers until they get whoever they want in 2025. And then up until 2025. Then in 2025, they will have to have an election. But of course, the tricky thing about it is, let's say that the next person they pick is incredibly popular. So let's say Jerry Halliwell, formerly known as Baby Spice. If Baby
Ginger
Spice,
Spice.
huh?
Was it Baby or Ginger? I thought it was Ginger Spice.
Oh God, I don't know. She did have red hair.
It was
Redhead,
Ginger.
Ginger.
As a chick in the '90s, it was Ginger.
Okay, thank you. So Jerry, obviously very popular as Ginger Spice, married to the manager of the Red Bull racing team, who just won today the constructors champion again in F1, and then also hosts this incredibly wonderful singing show called All Together Now. So let's say they appoint her. I'm sure that she is a conservative, and now she's very popular, and they're ahead in the polls. They say, you know what? We're all ahead in the polls. Let's have an election right now, and that's the way it would work. And then they'd have an election. I think it's 6 weeks.
Yeah. Mercifully short elections. That is one of the features of a parliamentary system, is that their elections are very short. From the time they're announced, I think they could have a leeway of a couple weeks here or there, but generally they are very short. They also have a period like the weekend before the election where there's no advertising at all, and a
And
period of reflection, I think.
there's not really any national election either.
No,
That's the thing. You only vote for essentially what we would consider members of the House of Representatives. And then members of the House are the ones who, if you have the majority, essentially what we would consider the Speaker of the House becomes the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And it's a rather interesting way to do things. The idea of not electing a national leader. And, it springs out of the fact because obviously they came out of a monarchy. And so their national leader was the monarch. And now the monarch has no power, but prime minister is it's not a terrible way to run a government.
no, it's not. I mean, I like the responsiveness that, if the government does not have the will of the body, then it falls when an election's called. It can lead to chaos, in that, like Italy having a new administration every 9 months since World War II, effectively every 9 months.
Yeah, I mean, and the new one is pretty crazy. So
Yeah, the new one's crazy. The first far right leader since Benito Mussolini. So
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, legitimately called a fascist.
yeah,
I think she embraces that term.
yeah. But I do want to announce that I am running for UK Prime Minister.
Are you eligible?
Why not?
Why not?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the eligibility is.
What is the eligibility requirements?
That is a great question.
I mean, I'm assuming British citizenship, but that's technically I am related to the Windsor family, so
yeah, I have some British blood, but not many. Who can stand as an MP? You have to be 18 years old, a
Got
British
that.
citizen,
Fuzzy on that.
or a citizen of the Republic of Ireland, or a Commonwealth country who does not require leave to enter or maintain residence in the UK. So if you were Canadian, you absolutely could stand for prime minister, which leads to an interesting thing. Justin Trudeau could run for prime minister.
Prime Minister GQ.
However, here's an interesting thing. The people who are not qualified, members of the police force are not allowed to run for office. Members of the armed forces are not allowed to run for office. Civil servants and judges, people who are subject to bankruptcy restrictions, people who have, so essentially more bankruptcy stuff, or people who have had their estates sequestrated in Scotland. So I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Yeah, that's some British stuff.
I mean, I know what a sequester is when it comes to the American budget, but I don't know what it means for an estate in Scotland.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, so yeah, I'm running. Not
There is the front runner is the guy who lost to Liz Truss last time.
Yeah, Sunak, I believe is his name.
Yeah. And interesting, I believe he's originally Indian, or his family is from India. And so that's a great example of sort of, citizen of the Commonwealth. And it's interesting to see, I think a lot about England's integration of Commonwealth countries into their culture, as opposed to Americans' integration of other Americans into their culture. And I think England has done it better than us, in spite of the fact that, they're sort of considered the ultimate aristocracy. If you look at their culture, it's much more blended than I would say. Well, American culture is pretty blended too, I guess. I take it back. That's the MGD talking.
Is that what it is?
So, seeing an interesting story. What will Liz Truss get in retirement for 45 days of work? She gets a public allowance of 115,000 pounds. That's heavy. A year. Um,
For 45 days of
yeah.
apparently shitty work?
Well, remember, I mean, if I think anybody who becomes president, even for, let's say they staying in for a day,
Yep.
I think they get the presidential pension and the Secret Service and
Secret
all
Service
that.
detail.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, she gets a pension. Let's see. Yeah, it just says that she gets a pension
Yeah.
regardless of the length of service. She gets security. She still gets her MP benefits. I think she's still an MP.
No, she is for sure. She's still a minister.
Yeah, she's still going to be, a member of the
A backbench.
conservative.
Yeah, I mean,
conservative backbench.
Boris Johnson is still sitting in Parliament causing trouble.
Yeah.
Which is why he is potentially eligible to be prime minister.
Do
But
they not have limits on how many times you can hold a position like
Nope.
that?
no, I mean,
Oh.
it's
Well,
like being
that's
a member of the.
stupid.
Well, it's like being a member of the House. There's no limit in the United States on how many times you can be a member of the House, and then
Or how
once you're a
long-
member of the House, how
Also
long
stupid.
can you be Speaker? There actually
Also
has been some movement in the United States to say that we should limit how long somebody can be Speaker, but we haven't had a powerful Speaker in a long time.
No.
You go back and you look at like a Lyndon Johnson or Tip O'Neill, those guys who served for like 30 years. But
What did they
Yeah.
accomplish in those 30 years?
LBJ, I mean, obviously went on to become president. And so even though he served less time than anybody else, well, not less time than anybody else, but less time than most people because, he's only served half of Kennedy's term, he actually passed more legislation. Now, I know we would view that as a bad thing, but he passed more legislation than any other president because he was so familiar with the inner workings of Congress. And, to his credit, he did get the Civil Rights Act through, which, I know some libertarians don't like, but I think overall I
Well,
call it a
You
tremendous.
don't have to worry about that. Former libertarian, sweetie. We're good. We're
All
good.
right, fair enough. It's it's an interesting thing, that little section of the Civil Rights Act that people don't like, the public accommodations one. I can make a long, complicated argument. I don't know if we want to do that tonight, but in favor of that stretch of public accommodations.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right.
the one thing I want to say about Liz Truss is that I hope whoever the next prime minister is, it follows in the footsteps of, we've had a bunch of prime ministers whose names have another meaning. So obviously Johnson, has got this great double entendre, but a truss is also, an article of clothing used to support, I think like after you've had a hernia or something. I actually don't know what a truss is. I just know it's an article of clothing.
I thought truss was something the like corset type thing.
Like a bustier type thing? Is that? Because see, I don't actually know. I'm going to Google.
All right. We're going to trust AJ to tell us what this one is. I mean, I know that there's also like a truss on our bridge and stuff like that, but I think that's all derivative of the same word.
Ooh, Dan, good job. You keep so much stuff in your brain. It's so interesting in there. A surgical appliance worn to support a hernia.
There you go.
go.
It's not
All right.
usually recommended now, but there you go.
Yep.
Excellent.
So that's good. So the next person needs to have like a name with like a double meaning, like I don't know.
Rishi Sunak. I don't know that is.
It's
Sunak.
true.
Maybe there is.
Yeah, Sunak. No, I don't know anything.
Or
But maybe
Rishi.
they'll be running against somebody else whose name is like fudger or
Penny,
something like that.
the other candidate that has significant support. So interesting. The previous selection of Miss Truss as the prime minister went to a vote of the Conservative Party members, the
Yep.
at large. The
Right.
This one they decided instead of doing a long drawn out election, knowing that they needed to get a prime minister in office. Um, they're doing basically it's a vote of the members of parliament, and you to enter your name into the race, you have to have support of 100 members of the Conservative Party caucus.
Interesting.
So Sunak
Oh.
has it. Another lady has tossed her name into the
Is
hat.
it
Into
Priti
the hat.
Patel?
No, it is Penny Mordaunt,
Oh,
which I've never heard of before. Preeti Patel, I wouldn't be surprised if she had gotten into it, but
right.
I guess is not. She had
Right.
enough of a contentious relationship during the Boris Johnson administration that perhaps she wants to take a step
Right.
back and see what falls.
Right. She was Home Secretary, which is traditionally sort of the lead up to Prime Minister often.
Yeah.
Home Secretary is the equivalent of Secretary of State, even though it
Yep.
says home. And what's interesting about it is, first of all, right, it's just a catchy name, Priti Patel, right? It's a name made for politics. Now it's Priti, not Pretty. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if she's in or not this cycle. We'll see. I
No,
don't think anybody wants the job either, really.
yeah, because I mean, even though the conservatives have pretty significant majority in the parliament, there is that kind of feeling that if there is, there's another unpopular prime minister put into office just to put somebody in office, that they may not survive a vote of confidence if push comes to shove over certain legislations, particularly around the idea of taxation and cutting of government services, which has been very unpopular, which led
Right.
to the previous chancellor of the exchequer resigning and all that stuff. Um, I think that push comes to shove, there could be a vote of confidence, and if they fail the vote of confidence, then we're going to trigger an election.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have to be pretty bad. The conservatives
They
majority is, I mean, it's,
came close with Johnson.
but I mean, Boris Johnson had done a lot of really bad things personally.
Hmm.
It wasn't like a rebuke of the entire party. It was a
Yeah,
rebuke of Boris Johnson. But if you were to say a vote of no confidence that the conservatives would have to vote to kick themselves out of government, that would be, it was, I mean, it could happen, but it would be surprising to me if they would have that many defections.
yeah,
But it could happen. I mean, essentially, you need about 25% of the, well, maybe 15%. I'm just running the numbers quickly, man. So you need 15% defection of the 350 elected conservatives. That's a lot, but it could
it
happen.
is. It could happen.
So
It had Boris
AJ has a
Johnson.
question.
Oh, yeah.
I do actually have a favor to ask y'all because I do not have Twitter. I need y'all to follow Larry the cat because that cat is the chief mouser at the office of the prime minister.
At number 10. Yes.
And this cat predicted Truss's removal like 10 days ago. Won't be here for long.
Interesting. All right.
I was
I'm
like,
now
what?
following 15-year-old
So,
Tabby awaiting my 5th prime minister.
yes,
Location
there
is
you go.
currently not under a desk.
There you go.
So
Um,
apparently this cat is actually very into it. Whoever's running the account is very interesting. And they predicted this. So
Yep.
the
sorry to take away.
one of the funny stories about this whole thing is that this is it the Guardian or the Sun um, put up a head of lettuce that outlasted the Truss administration. They're like, which will last longer, Liz Truss or this head of lettuce? The head of lettuce won.
It's a tough thing. It's interesting to think, I mean, they are dealing with this big economic thing. And traditionally, what a government would do in a situation like this is print money, right? Just that's what they do. But
Yep.
here we are in this inflationary cycle where I mean that's it. The potential is really bad, and their currency is already incredibly devalued, and so they can't do that. And so it goes to show you the problem of the Conservative Party is not really. The Conservative Party is actually more similar to the Democratic Party. I see Craig's question there in the background. Sorry, I shouldn't look at the questions until Dave puts them on the screen. But the Conservative Party is more similar to the Democratic Party here. They, for example, they support national health. They are in favor of gun control. There's there's no other country in the world except for Ireland where they don't have guaranteed women's rights to control their bodies. Although even Ireland, I believe, legalized recently.
Yeah.
That every country's pretty far to the left compared to us. Even the conservatives, they favor business, but you have to compare it to the other side, right? When Labor took over not that long ago, they said, you know what? Rolls-Royce and Land Rover are really important to the country. And so we're going to nationalize the companies and the government's just going to run them. And so everybody's a shareholder tough. So that's where England is, where the UK is. They're much further left than people realize. They just happen to be the second most right-wing country in the world after us.
Although I would argue that the Republican Party right now is not like the Republican Party 10 years ago. Like,
No, it's true. I mean, our Republican Party is not anywhere on there. Right. The existing Republican Party is not anywhere on the political spectrum.
Yeah.
They're just on the spectrum. I say that as a former special education teacher. Um, but it's true, right? You can't look at where the Republican Party is now and say this is a progression of other things. It's only about power. I mean, unfortunately, the Democrats are sort of like that too. I mean, the Democrats are a little truer to their purpose, but they're really about power too, because the Republicans are working under this idea that, if you really, really want something and you really focus on it, you can get it. And what they really, really want is power. They don't care about political objectives.
Yeah. I mean, I made the argument earlier this week that politics has really just become a big game of grift, whether it's grifting power, grifting money.
Yep.
And people have said that, oh, well, politics has always been bad. In the past, politics has really, whether you agree with it or not, there has been that underlying, we need to do something public policy wise to do something to help this or do that. It's not even that anymore. It's let's grift all the money, the power, and what we're selling is this idea that I hate my neighbor because they have this or they do this or they believe this. And the other side is we're selling the same thing. I hate my neighbor because they came from a different country, or they did this or they did this, or they believe this. And that's what we're at now with politics, is that we are just in this long grift to accumulate money and power, money to run the elections, power to do whatever they want to pay off their cronies that give them money. AJ?
Yes.
Well, politics, and we had discussed this a little bit earlier. Hatred and bigotry sell. And if you're jealous, if you have distrust of, if you have, I don't know, whatever this generational racism, sexism bullshit that continues, and it sells, it really does. It sells so well.
Mhm.
And the media has really helped spur that on, because 24/7, we know who hates who's
Yep.
suspicious of who, what all's going everywhere. It's hatred and bigotry sells. And we have seen that firsthand.
It sells, but also, it has this effect that allows you to be manipulated. One of the most telling
Yes.
things in 1984 was when the state required you to do 2 minutes of hate all the time, right? Every day. You'd have 2 minutes, you had to really hate, 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 hate. And then after you were done with that hate, and it was so exhausted, then they would give you the political messaging so that you were in a receptive spot to do it. I mean, it's astonishing that Orwell understood that so thoroughly, considering,
Yeah.
the background he came from, but it's completely true. That's sort of, we're taught this anger and hatred. And, there's the funny thing about it is that that's not who we are as a people in any way, shape, or form, except in politics. Right. I mean, I feel very confident most of the time. I meet somebody at the gas station and we start chatting, whoever it is, we'd have a nice little conversation about something as long as we don't start talking about political stuff.
Mhm.
But once we start talking about, me being in charge of you or you being in charge of me, then everything's ruined. And that's where we're broken and it's where we as people who support liberty, as exhausted as we can get, can't give up that mission because fundamentally everybody else's system involves significant authoritarianism, making me do what they want me to do. And I'm not for that. And so,
Yeah.
it's going to be, if the authoritarians ever really get in charge, it's going to be bad for people like us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, when we look at social media where we siloed ourselves into these individual, basically our thinking groups, where we
That
identify
definitely works.
politically, we've weaned out all the non-believers, and we're very receptive to things that confirm our biases, and you know, don't believe anything else. Everything else is fake news. We're just in a position now that we're ripe for this. That everyone who has siloed themselves off is so ripe for manipulation by the politicians, manipulation by the media, and we're seeing it now.
Well, the fear, that they use, the fear of everything, the fear of diseases, the fear of individuals in the bathroom, the fear of sharing water fountains. These are big sellers, and they've worked for generations, and apparently they're going to keep working, even with Gen Z, because uh, talking, having kids, like they keep you relevant. They keep you relevant to what younger people are thinking, and they are not these big hateful, fearful people. They're like you do you, I'll do me. We'll all just be cool to each other. And that's not the world that they're coming into. That's not the world that they're becoming adults in. It's this constant fear. And I am in Tennessee. So a lot of it is Republican fear and just stupidity. And okay, unless you're a woman that agrees with the Republican Party 100%, you're drinking the Kool Aid, you have no idea. I'm a leftist devil, like all of these stupid things. And it's just like, y'all, I'm just a mom. I'm trying to look out for my kids. I'm trying to make sure that they're the world for them to exist in, even if it's in Tennessee. Like,
Yeah.
I realize that you're here too, and that's fine. You go do your crap over there, that's fine. The hate, though, that spreads from being scared. I have family members that share anti-trans crap, and I'm like, "Do you realize this isn't true? Do you
Yeah.
actually realize who this is about?" You know, open your mind a little bit. Very few of them will argue back with me, very few, but there are the ones that it has reached them. The fear and the manipulation and the hate has reached them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is just, it's insane because where we are is exactly right. We're at this crossroads of allowing the really, really terrible people to be in charge because nobody else wanted to stand up and argue against them. And if we don't do that, and like, we're not arguing, and the liberty people aren't arguing against somebody in particular. We're arguing against anybody being in charge. You know,
Mhm.
Larry Sharp says it really well. He's like, you know what? Republicans, be as Republican as you want. Democrats, be as Democrat as you want. Just don't make anybody else live by your rules.
Yeah.
It's all we want.
Exactly.
It's a very simple thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Let me live my life. Let me, let's get power from the overarching federal government, and not stop at the state government, not stop at the get it as low as possible to the individual as preferable. That's how we need to look at power, and kind of inverted as to what it is now, where all these countries. We'll talk about China in a minute, where they're really starting to consolidate power further and further up the pyramid, and people are there's a lot of parallels, it seems to me, between what's going on now and what went on before, say, like World War I, and maybe even the interwar period of World War II. It feels like the nationalists are marching, and the borders and the resource allocations are they're causing conflict, and we could see just global conflict erupt at any time.
Yeah, I if we don't, the whole point of the American experiment is this idea of a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we are moving away from that. We are moving towards a system of government by the elites. And the elites are not academic elites. They're not financial elites. They are actually political party elites, the people who have manipulated the system so that they don't have to be wealthy, that it doesn't have to be a meritocracy. Instead, you put your time in and you look at some of the candidates who are running, some of the people who are getting elected. They're not people who it makes any sense. You would say, oh, that person deserves it. I mean, Herschel Walker is obviously low hanging fruit, but you know, go ahead.
No,
100%. I brought him up earlier by name. He gets on my nerves so bad because him, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Trump, what do they have in common? They're in the news constantly, constantly in
Well,
the news for what they've said, not for doing anything, not for helping anybody, not for passing legislation that has changed, like lives for people. That's all the people in power should do is good. And they have done absolutely nothing. They're just in the news for running their mouths
and
and
if
flashing
we,
badges, apparently.
and what's crazy is that Herschel Walker, I mean, that should be a guy that you can't say, I'm worried about. The Republicans shouldn't be able to say, I'm worried about the other guy in the race. The other guy in the race is a pastor. He's socially conservative. This is, he would be a dream Republican candidate in New York or Massachusetts. But instead, because he's in Georgia and he's running against Herschel Walker, they're demonizing him, saying that, oh, this is communist stuff like that. It's just the opposite of it. The
yeah,
thing is that it's just this game, right? This shell count game. And the one vote that they're worried about is who's going to elect the president of the Senate, who's going to, elect the leader of the Senate.
yep.
And where is that vote going to go? And they want you to vote your party. It leads to a very interesting thing. So I've been arguing with Frank Robinson on Facebook for a while. I think some of you guys know
Have
who he
you?
is. Well, so what's interesting about it is it's taken me like 3 years of arguing with him to understand what his main point is. And he talks about censorship on the ballot and stuff like that. But he's never explained that actually what he wants is for every election to be a write-in, so that there are no candidate names. You get a blank piece of paper, or you get a thing with the office, and then you have to write in the name of the candidate that you want. Did I freeze? Can you
Yeah,
also?
your pick is frozen. We can hear you.
All right.
Let it go,
Let me
Dan.
see if I can
Let
fix
it
that
go.
real quick. But so it's funny because I think that that's a great place. That's actually a really good thing. If we could get to the place where you actually write in the name of the person that you want, that would be a better election process than we have. And as it turns out, there's a model. That's what the Japanese do. You could argue some people have messy handwriting and bad bad spelling, stuff like that. Computers are pretty good at that sort of thing nowadays.
But like
We're
I
at the
said
point.
last week, I don't know Japanese.
You don't know what?
I don't know Japanese.
You don't know Japanese, right? Unfortunately, it's not required to write in Japanese. You can write things in English, or we could, let people type whatever, but make it so that the people have to know a little bit about the election process instead of this thing of where we're just blindly voting for parties. There's no other way, right? How does a guy like Herschel Walker, who never served his paid any dues, anything like that, how does he suddenly become the person that Georgian Republicans think, you know what? This guy would be the best senator that we can elect. Because isn't that
Because
really go ahead.
American government became reality TV. That's how
Exactly.
that happens.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I mean,
mean,
Dan, remember when we were kids, there was a show on TV called That's Incredible. They talked about like all
Yep.
these really
With
great things people
Rand
are doing all over
Tarkington
the
and
country.
Kathy Lee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crosby.
Kelly Crosby, yes. Talking about all these great things people are doing and highlighting like these really great stories about things that are going on in across America or whatever.
Yep.
Now we've actually gotten past the point where we were at Jackass.
Yep.
That's kind of what we're at as far as look at politics. It's kind of gone that way. Like we've gone through, Shining City on a Hill to Jackass as candidates to,
The thing is, so like, I have to admit that there are lots of things on Jackass that I just find hilarious. Okay.
yeah,
Can't argue with that. But they did an episode, they did a gag where they glued whatever you call the thing that you carry a baby around in, right? Those big plastic cases. They glued it to the top of a car and then they drove down the street. And people people who were really concerned, like ran like crazy to try to save this baby. And they laughed. That's not funny. I mean, what broke in us that we're like, oh, you know what? Here are these people trying to do this really awesome thing, give themselves a heart attack to save a child's life. And we're like, oh yeah, that's funny. That's entertainment. And,
that's right.
I mean, I talk about it a little bit because, if you talk about it, there's some things that you can talk about. But if you actually do them, it's not funny. And
Yeah.
so we're in this place where we talk about these things that people would never do. And we live in this sort of fantasy world of, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. And the problem is, too, I don't really know that it can be fixed. I think the only fix to it is to diminish the power of government. It's the only thing because everything else is so broken, right? If people get together and they'll vote on things, they give themselves power over each other.
Yeah.
And that's that's broken. So I don't know. I worry about it a lot. And I don't know what the fix is. And the problem is that, who's going to suffer too? Who's going to really suffer from the system? It's going to be the artists. It's going to be the creative people. It's going to be the people who really love freedom. It's going to be the people who aren't good at playing click games, at being popular, at, sucking up to, you didn't know where I was going to go with that, did you?
That was brilliant.
Those are going to be those people who aren't good at sucking up to the cool kids, because the cool kids are the ones who are popular and can win elections. And
Mhm.
that's just a terrible world. I don't want a Mean Girls world. I don't want a burn book world. I don't want a world where, I have to be conscious of, being cool so that other people won't try to take my rights away.
Exactly.
I completely agree. And I mean, limiting the government's power is going to be a lifetime goal. Like that's not going to change ever.
Yep.
If that means I'm doing it locally, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm going to show up at your little campaign parties at the Ruritans. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But also limiting the power of celebrity, I think, would go a long way because we care so much about
Yep.
these people that we see in the news all the time and what they have to say and all the other crap. And it's
So
just because they're famous. Their names are being chosen on the ballots. If it's not based on the party, it's based on, do I know this name and how do I know this name? You know
I
this name because they run their mouths all the time. You know?
I heard a very interesting comment, though, that we might be living in the final age of mega celebrity, because there are so many celebrities now, YouTube influencers, people like that, who have these small little things, but could another Kim Kardashian pop up? And that was saying, somebody with, no talent, right? I mean, we don't think Kim Kardashian has any talent at anything. I mean, she's a pretty woman, and she has a sex tape. But other than that, what has she done? What acumen has she shown? What contribution? Like, I mean, I think about Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, I don't care where you are on the spectrum. Taylor Swift is an unbelievable songwriter. She's an amazing musician. Even if you don't like her stuff, you have to respect the talent.
Yeah.
But there just aren't that many people like that. You think about big athletes right now. I don't think there's any athlete in the world who's as famous as Michael Jordan was. You could argue there's some soccer players who are pretty huge, but go ahead, AJ.
Even I know who Michael Jordan was.
Right, you know who Michael Jordan was, but like you probably don't know who Cristiano Ronaldo is.
No, I do not. Are you shocked?
I'm not.
Absolutely, just astounded.
I'm not. But no, but that's the thing is that there's so many other things out there right now who, I'm sure that I could ask, and I bet you there are probably 5 people listening to this. I see we're up at 18,000 people watching the stream right now. So I'm sure there are 5 people out there who know who Joe Robinette is. Happens to be a bushcraft live streamer that I like a lot, and I watch him. And I'd recommend the Joe Robinette show after you've liked and subscribed to our thing.
Yeah.
But maybe the democratization of celebrity, which is a phrase I just coined,
Nice,
is
I like it.
the best thing that we can hope for. That, as like a million different forms of media roll out, that becomes the unifier that we don't have any shared experience. When I was a kid, everybody in my elementary school on Thursday would talk about what was on Happy Days the night beforehand. That was the really popular television show. And there were only 3 networks. Okay, now, right, there's 800 networks, and we all consume different media, and we don't have that common experience anymore. And for a while, I thought that was a very divisive thing. And I maybe it is, but hopefully it leads us to a place where we say, you know what? That's what it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to have any of that stuff in common. Because certainly, if you were to go back 150 years, right, the only thing that people had in common was, man, life is hard and short, and we are all suffering, and maybe we can find a way to share some of the human experience together.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, I did something.
It's time for your close-up, Dave.
There we go.
The news quiz.
It is time for the news quiz.
All right. I'm
Are
excited.
you guys ready? All right, so we see people in caps and gowns with a flag. We see fire. We see motorcycles.
Fire with Sanskrit on the wall behind it.
It's Persian, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah, and warehouses. I don't know what that was. Anyway, so 5 things. We were batting 1,000 last week. So can we keep it going? Question number 1: groundbreaking movie star Anna Mae Wong will be the first Asian American featured on the back of which U.S. currency?
Man, I have no idea, but I'm going to guess it's the quarter.
Penny, dime, quarter, or dollar?
I'm going to guess it's the quarter because they've been doing those state quarter things.
Yeah.
I would think quarter because it's big enough to see a face, like a really good face.
I know that when people tried to get in touch with Anna Mae Wong, they had a hard time calling her on the phone because they would always ring the Wong number.
I knew you were going that way. Yes, correct. It is the quarter.
All right.
That's
I've never heard of Anna Mae Wong.
I've never heard of Anna Mae Wong either, but it's a cool, cool look. I like it.
Yep.
Question number 2: the Biden administration launched a new website this week that allows millions of eligible federal student loan borrowers to apply for up to how much debt forgiveness? 5,000, 50,000, 20,000, or 100,000?
I know this.
Yep, 20,000.
Yep.
Yep. So
they can apply for it, but they ain't going to get it.
Well,
Yeah.
I applied for it. Full disclosure, I applied for it.
Yep.
It is on hold because there was a circuit court judge that put a temporary, or U.S. Court of Appeals judge that put a temporary stay on it.
Yep.
And so they're not doing any decisions. There are
Yep.
some people who are like the first day or two that it was open, that they already had their 20,000 approved, and they were supposed to start today, taking those $20,000 grants off.
Right.
But there's a story that CNN has that over 700,000 people in the student loan forgiveness that want to apply, or technically eligible to apply, cannot do it because their loans had been sold off to a private company
Dun,
and they're
dun,
not federal
dun.
laws, which a lot of times they don't have the choice in this.
Yeah, they usually don't.
The loan just gets sold off. So there's a lot of people who are mad.
Yep.
And honestly, I think this is the only thing that the Biden administration is going to do once the election's over, regardless of what happens. I don't think he's going to go any further on student loan debt forgiveness.
Yeah, and I don't think that this will pass. It'll go to the Supreme Court, I'm sure of it. And it's a separation of powers question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Only the House can spend money.
Yeah. Question number 3. The Girl Scouts of the USA received the largest ever donation from a single donor last week, or this week. Which philanthropist contributed over $80 million to the organization? Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Mackenzie Scott, or Warren Buffett?
Got to be Mackenzie Scott.
It's got to be Mackenzie Scott, just from the blurred
We can
out
see the picture behind it, right? That's clearly not Oprah. It's not
It's
Warren
not
Buffett.
Oprah.
It's not Bill Gates. But
Yeah.
it's also Mackenzie Scott because she's given away more money than anybody else in the history of the world.
Yeah, she is. She, of course, her husband, Jeff Bezos, former husband, Jeff Bezos, gave her billions of dollars in the divorce settlement, and she has really made it her mission to just give it all away.
Give it away as fast as
And-
possible.
And yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
love Mackenzie Scott. She's
Yeah, I
awesome.
agree. She's amazing. I feel bad for her that she's already divorced again. That was,
Did she already get divorced from the?
yeah.
Wow.
You know how you avoid divorce? Don't
Not
get
getting
fucking
married.
married.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, the obviously she had a tremendous prenup. But
I hope so.
it's I mean, what do you do, right? When you get married and your net worth is $60 billion.
Like her new husband was like a teacher at her
Science
kid's
teacher, yeah.
school. Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
Oh,
All right, question number 4. Which 2 supermarkets plan to merge in 2024? Kroger and Albertsons, Ralph's and Whole Foods, Trader Joe's and Aldi, or Sam's Club and Publix?
I don't know. Publix, I know, is big in Florida. And
I think
Sam's is big with old people. So I think there's some connection there. But if I were going to guess, I'd have to say Kroger and Albertsons. Now, have any of you guys ever been to an A&P? No? Stop and Shop? No? All right. Those are 2 big New England chains.
So I'm looking at the color, and there's a particular green color in the background, which makes me think Whole Foods.
No. Whole Foods is owned by Amazon. Why are they going to merge?
Well, they're probably taking over Ralph's.
Resistance is futile. I mean, if that's what you want to go with, but
Yeah, I don't.
Kroger and Albertsons makes more sense to me. Aldi is German, so the Germans don't merge; they conquer. My guess is Kroger and Albertsons, but I think AJ, you're gonna have to decide for us.
Well, I don't like either of y'all. I was going to
What
put
do
a
you-
Sam's
what do you
Club
like?
and Publix because I've actually heard of both.
All right, let's go Sam Clubs and Publix.
Yeah, let's do that. No, Kroger and Albertsons.
See, listen to me.
Yep.
Crazy, crazy men. What are you thinking? Can't listen to the woman? What are you
Yep.
thinking?
Question number 5. Kanye West, who legally changed his name to Ye, announced he is acquiring
Yay.
which
Yay.
Ye? Is it Ye? Yeah, like Kanye. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
uh I think of Yeet. But anyway,
Yep.
If
and he
only,
announced he
if
is
only.
if only announced
Yay,
he's
though I walk in the
acquiring
valley of
which
the shadow of
A
evil.
cannon into space.
Sorry.
which social media outlet is he acquiring? Controversial one.
It's Parlor.
Yep,
Yeah.
Parlor.
Because you saw the funny thing they did? They
No.
emailed, so the Parlor administrators emailed everybody to explain what was happening, every Parlor member. We want to let you know what's going on, what's going to change, what's not going to change. Still going to be the same, crazy service that you expected all this time, blah, blah, blah. However, when they emailed everybody, they didn't use BCC. So
Oh my
people started hitting
goodness.
reply all.
Oh. Not only that, but you give out your entire
Yep.
Roster.
email database.
Yep. Pretty crazy.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
gosh.
Ooh, I'd be pissed.
I mean, if they'd had more than 1,000 members, that would have been a disaster.
Yeah, I just have never gotten into any of the other social media. I got in, I have Twitter. I've got TikTok's probably the only thing recently that I've got into. But all these other ones, people are like, "Oh, the libertarians are moving to this." I'm like, I don't want a libertarian echo chamber. Like, that's the last thing I want.
Yeah.
From a social media, I want to get all kinds of diverse opinions about things, so I'm kind of informed about what's going on.
I agree with
So
Well,
you're not going to see me on Getter or True Social or Gab or Parlor. Sorry.
Yeah.
no.
I mean, Getter, that's the one for like country people, right? Get her done.
I thought that was.
I don't know,
I
but
thought
I
it
hope
was.
so.
I thought that was farmers only, but
I logged into Truth Social. It said, "You're ugly."
bastards. Question number 6: which country saw its prime minister resign this week? I wonder which.
Hmm.
Bum, bum,
UK.
bum, bum,
Liz
bum,
Truss
bum, bum.
resigned.
Yep.
Bye-bye. 6 weeks.
Liz hernia
Uh,
support clothing.
I had lots of friends who said that she lasted approximately 4 Scaramucci's.
Nice. The mooch. He
Uh,
was excited about the Libertarian Party for a little while. Going to get involved with us. Right after Nick had done just an outstanding thing on Morning Joe, and Mooch reached out to us. He's like, "Man, this guy gets it. I'm really excited about blah blah blah." And then like some crazy tweet came out. He's like, "Forget it."
oh, jeez.
Isn't
Uh,
that what happens to them all?
yeah.
I mean, that's what happened with Seth Rogen as well.
What happened?
With
Well,
Seth Rogen. Do you remember he was going to be involved in the movie that they were putting together?
Oh yeah.
The Anarchist
and,
movie?
and one of the tweets come out of one of the northeastern states that are always tweeting crap.
It
And
was a
he pulled
third
out.
party movie. Yeah, it was a third party movie that they were doing about the
Mhm.
2020 election.
Oh,
Yep.
Rogan was going to be involved, and then Libertarian Party New Hampshire did what Libertarian Party New Hampshire does, and
Mhm.
yeah. No, actually, that was the Libertarian Party Kentucky. That was the
Was it
anti-Semitic
Kentucky?
yeah.
tweet
It was
that
the
LBKY did.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, question number 7. As of this week, which item can U.S. adults now purchase without first seeing a healthcare professional or needing a prescription? Antibiotics, flu vaccine, hearing aids, or dentures?
I
I know
don't know this for sure, but and this is interesting because I don't think that I think that 2 of these you actually don't need to see a healthcare professional for. It depends on what you want, but I'm pretty sure the correct answer is hearing aids.
Yes.
However, like if I had a fake set of teeth, I bet you I can sell it and the government's not going to stop me. Big choppers of wood.
Get on your Facebook Marketplace right now.
Gently
I
used.
guarantee you can find some.
You know what? What are they going to do? They're going to shut down all those people. It's Halloween with those fake wax teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hearing aids. Hearing aids were, I mean, they're ridiculously the good ones. They're the ones that they sell on TV that are
Yep, yep, yep.
amplifiers, but
Mm.
good quality hearing aids are ridiculously expensive, and it's hope that getting them on the
Free market,
not free market is going
like
to reduce the
LASIK.
price.
Look how cheap LASIK is now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Not with
You get
any
that
luck at
doctor from The Simpsons. Hey, everybody, I'm Dr.
all.
Nick.
Oh, I actually do know this one.
I know this one
So
too.
yeah, which major city opened a makeshift tent camp this week to house hundreds of migrants bussed there from the southern border?
It's a
L.A.,
city that should not
Chicago,
make salsa.
L.A., Chicago, New York City, or Miami.
Nuevo York.
Nueva York.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what?
So
I actually, if it were all voluntary, I would definitely agree with the idea of moving migrants to other states. People should share the burden. It's not fair. I mean, Dave, you and I both come from states that have shouldered that burden for a long
yeah,
time, and it's not fair. So all these northern states that want to be sanctuary cities. I mean, that was the great thing about Martha's Vineyard, right? Martha's Vineyard said, "Oh yeah, we're a sanctuary city. We're a fucking sanctuary city in Massachusetts on an island, okay,
yeah,
an island right where the cheapest hotel room is $500. Well, yeah, we're a sanctuary city. Well, you know what? Good. I don't approve of the method by which they did it, but
yes,
I absolutely think that it is good that every city that declares themselves a sanctuary city friggin' do it. And you know what?
yeah,
There actually is a really good example of this going back to my family's personal history. So I grew up in Galveston, Texas, which has a surprisingly large Jewish community. And the reason why is because back in the day, before the 1900 hurricane, Galveston was the city in the Gulf of Mexico, really wealthy port. Um, and the Jewish community there was run by this guy named Henry Cohen. And he's like, you know what we need is we need more immigrants coming here. And so they had a team of people in New York meeting Jews getting off the boats. What do you want to live in New York for? It's crazy in here. You know, why don't you come to Texas? It's wide open land, everything you want. And so and that worked. That's so you know what? Sanctuary cities, I want to see you guys pick up the slack. Start
yeah.
bringing migrants home to you.
I mean, eventually they do spread out throughout the country. I mean,
But at that point in
Atlanta.
time, there's not a financial burden with taking people. The original intake is a lot of money and a burden on a society.
It
Well,
is.
these people,
But it's also location.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, it's where people come, but you know what? The transportation cost isn't that much. Let's just start running trains. Everybody come to the border. We'll run a train to New York City, Chicago,
Yeah,
LA, and
absolutely.
then redistribute from there.
Yeah, and I think when you went down to Deming, you they were giving people bus tickets to wherever they needed to
Yep.
go, right?
Yep. Greyhound.
That's I mean, really, that's find out where they need to go and get them to where they need to go.
Yep.
It doesn't. There shouldn't be detention centers. There shouldn't be in a temporary measure. Yes, a tent city may help alleviate some things, but
Right.
that there's thousands of places within New York City that are just sitting vacant right now
Right.
that could house people that are not housing
Owned by
people.
Russian oligarchs that have been confiscated.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Let's put people in those $1 million apartments.
yeah, absolutely.
I like this idea.
All right, question number 9. Approximately how many people have been arrested during the current protests in Iran? 100, 500, 700, or 1,000?
I mean, it's got to be the biggest number there. I don't know
Yeah,
how it could not be
it's
a
gotta
gotta
thousand.
be.
be, yeah.
Yep. More than 1,000 people have been arrested in the
Yep.
country, as many as Iranians continue to rise up against decades of repression. Saw this week that a couple of trade unions have now joined the protests. They're calling for strikes. Again, these are just more and more bricks to add to this protest that really threaten the heart of the Iranian regime. So um, glad to see it's still maintaining the momentum and it's growing. And it doesn't need U.S. intervention.
Interesting.
Question number 10. What is the most popular Halloween costume this year, according to Google ratings? Pumpkin, witch, Spider-Man, or Batman?
It's a tough one.
I
Looking
really
at the
hope it's
picture.
Spider-Man.
I'm looking at the picture, and I don't
Yeah, me too.
see a pumpkin.
I see blue and red, so that might be Spider-Man.
Might be
But
Spider-Man.
that might be purple. And that might
That
be
might,
witch.
but might be black to the left of that. That might be a witch.
Yeah.
I
I think it's a witch. I mean,
what is
it's a
the audience?
witch!
What is the audience? Say?
Burner.
Huh?
It's a witch. Burner.
How do you know she's a witch, David?
Fetch me a duck.
Build a bridge out of her.
She's made of wood.
Exactly. All
What do
right.
you think? Witch?
I mean, I think just witch for that comedy routine.
Yeah.
What do you think, AJ? 8? Oh, all right.
But it's a
There you
witch.
go.
It's a
Oh, so
witch.
they tried to trick us with the purple witch.
Yeah.
Now we don't know which witch is which. Sorry. It's interesting. I mean, I guess Spider-Man is second. I don't know. I mean, has it been? I guess there's Hocus Pocus 2 out right now, right? Trying to think
Oh
of
yeah.
which just have come back in modern culture. I didn't see either of the Hocus Pocus movies.
I
haven't
will
either.
let my pagan friends know that their witch costume is the most popular this year, according to CNN.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, it's usually got to be up there though when you think about it. Like
Yeah.
that's
I've been a witch like 9 times.
Because it's easy, right? You just have
Yeah.
construction paper and you make the hat and then a big black dress. And then, there's all the variations of,
Mhm.
you need that big fake nose.
the big fake nose.
Mhm.
There's the,
My older sister's favorite green eyeshadow was my face paint one year. I looked damn good too. Um, but it was that sparkly seafoam color that was really popular. I mean, this was like late 80s, so that color. And that was my face paint for being a witch one year.
Nice.
Yes.
that's good. And then,
Very
there's
good.
obviously witches and then there's witches. So there's the Hermione Granger witch.
Yes.
And the, what was her name? Melissa
Maleficent.
Joan
Melissa
Hart.
Joan Hart.
Yeah.
Sabrina. Yeah.
Sabrina.
Yes, Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Right.
And of
So
course, there's a new version on Netflix too.
there's a
So
new Sabrina the
there's a new
Teenage Witch.
Sabrina.
Interesting.
It's darker.
I knew that they're doing a remake of Bewitched as well, which I guess Sabrina is the witch from Bewitched. So
What?
Sabrina is the daughter of
Oh,
Elizabeth
knew that.
Montgomery. That's isn't she? I don't know. I could be wrong.
The bewitched witch is Samantha.
Samantha,
Actually,
but isn't her
and
daughter?
Sabrina was
Elizabeth Montgomery was the actual name of the person.
the actress.
Yeah.
The actress, but it wasn't
She's
her
supposed to
daughter's
be the
name
daughter?
Sabrina? Yeah.
Is that really?
Bewitched daughter.
I shouldn't question Dan. I know better.
I could be wrong. Bewitched daughter. No, that was Tabitha Stevens. So it's not Sabrina.
Tabitha.
So
All
yeah,
of the
I don't know.
syllables. Not your fault.
A lot of names. Dee 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 dee
I
dee
love that we
dee
went
dee
sideways.
dee 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 dee. Sorry,
Ooh, Trump.
So
that's a good show.
9 out of 10. Oh yeah, there's the bastard. So 9 out of 10 this week. Still,
Because
we
you
got
listen
an
to
A.
me.
We got an A. Hey,
Yeah,
I'm okay
exactly.
with that. So speaking of Trump, this week it was emerged that Donald Trump has been subpoenaed by the January 6th committee. Now, had this not happened the same week of the other news that we have with Steve Bannon, I would have thought that Trump would just ignore this. But coupled with the fact that Steve Bannon was just given 4 months for ignoring the January 6th committee subpoena, we may actually well, it depends on how the election turns out, but we may actually get Donald Trump testifying before this committee. Now, most likely he'll be just doing the fifth, but that will definitely be must see television.
Do you think he'll do it sideways like he did his speeches? No, I'm pleading the fifth. Do you think that he'll be all dramatic about it?
I think I kind of think it's going to have to do with the elections and how those turn out. And I know we have 2 more shows before the elections.
We're gonna do an election show, and then election night I'm gonna do a show.
I think that
Mhm.
an election night show is a good
Yep.
idea.
Two more. So the
So
30th and the
the
6th.
7th, 6th, 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. Ooh, I learned a new mnemonic for remembering the planets. Now that Pluto is not a planet anymore, but a Disney character. So what I had previously known was Mark's very extravagant mother just sent us 90 parakeets. But now that there's no P anymore, I heard people say, let's see, what? Sorry. Mary's virgin explanation makes Joseph suspect upstairs neighbor.
I like that one better.
Nice. I
Yeah,
like
I'm
that.
very happy with that one. It works very well. Yeah, Glenda the Good Witch is also a witch.
Yeah.
Played by what's her name? Chenoweth, Kristen Chenoweth. You
In
guys
the remake.
didn't see Wicked? No, in Wicked, which is really good. If you haven't seen Wicked, Wicked's awesome. As we say in Massachusetts, it's wicked awesome.
Yeah, I have not seen that show.
Cannot recommend it highly enough. Really, really good. Very libertarian.
All right.
But also, I mean, those songs.
So
Go ahead.
what do you think is going to happen with Trump testifying? How big of a circus do you think it'll be?
I don't think it'll happen. I just think that the risk of things really blowing up and going to shit are so high that they'll find some way to avoid it.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
think he'll flee?
Do I think what? He'll flee?
You think he'll flee?
Oh, I don't think he'll flee.
no, I think it's so
If I
close
thought
to
he
the
would
election.
flee, if I thought he would flee, I would say yes. Let's execute the subpoena right now. Get him there. But I don't. I think that he would defiantly call for another insurrection, and that I think that would be bad for the country.
Yeah. Now,
So,
I think they've given themselves an out with the election that if it goes poorly for the Democrats, then this is going to wrap up.
right.
They'll try and do something in the interims, between the election and the new House being sat, but Trump could run out the clock on that. He could defy the subpoena, and then January 1st, when the new House is sat, or whenever they actually sit the new House, then it's over. That committee is closed.
Yeah. It's interesting. Nate Silver wrote an article today in the Washington Post. People who don't know who Nate Silver is, he's the brains behind 538, which is about as good a prognosticator as there is out there. They assign a lot of mathematical percentages to things. Boy, he said he thinks the Senate is a toss-up now.
Yeah.
Got no idea which way it's going to go. And it is interesting. Nevada is certainly close. Pennsylvania, I mean, I don't know. Not Butterman, whatever his name is.
Veteran.
Yeah, I don't know much about him, but based on what he looks like, I'm unlikely to vote for him, which is not a good sign, in my opinion. And then Oz, of course, is terrible.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that, he survives that pet scandal. The animal testing thing.
I hope he doesn't.
But
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
hope.
look at we have Dan Wasmer, I think, is the candidate for Keystone in that race as well, and then Eric Gerhardt was the Libertarian Party candidate. He pretty well stepped in it this week during a forum for all of the candidates and the third party candidates in Pennsylvania, where he um, said that as a white guy he doesn't have any access to any welfare or anything like that. It was just awful.
Wow.
Oh,
It actually
Nate.
caused the Dan Wasmer, who was on the segment with him. All the other parties were there too. Um, Basically rebuked it and talked about how this is why the Keystone Party exists, because of this kind of
Awesome. I hope that's
stupidity.
televised somewhere.
Yeah. It was webcast. It was like a big
All right.
Zoom thing.
I'm
So,
sure Fakertarian's got a copy.
oh yeah, definitely. And then,
I see we got somebody watching from England.
oh hey,
Dr. Ducky, where are you? Let us know. Say Cumbria. Just because I went to school there.
yeah, it's just
Manchester. Fair enough.
remind you of my campaign so far.
Yep.
No anchor.
Yep. Dave is hoping to be new Prime Minister Saddleworth. So he's going to be a Man City fan. You just know it. That's okay. I remember.
No,
No,
he's not.
he's a
Okay.
United fan. Wow, that's good. I didn't think there were any left. I'm just kidding, of course. But remember, Manchester United is owned by Americans, the Glazers.
Yeah, the
In many
Tampa.
ways, the beginnings of Ted Lasso is built sort of out of that a little bit. Dolphins fan too. You guys had a good day today. Actually, no, the game's still going on. Is it over?
It's probably close. It's yeah. Completely understand. The Glazers now, they own Tampa, right?
They own the Bucks.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
can
Dolphins are up.
understand both as a Manchester United fan level and as a Dolphins fan level about the Bucks.
Yeah, the Dolphins are up 16-10 with 25 seconds left.
All right,
Steelers have the ball.
interesting.
It is interesting. I mean, I can put it on live if you want to have your thing
Take it down.
censored again. Yeah,
DCMA claim on me. Yeah, thanks, man.
yeah. Because the NFL, I will tell you. Do you remember the whole Ray Rice scandal?
Yes.
Okay, and you remember exactly what happened? So, for those of you who don't know, Ray Rice is a running back for the Baltimore Ravens, and footage came out of him assaulting his wife in an elevator, and he got essentially the death penalty. He never played again
Yeah.
in the NFL. When the NFL announced that, they had a press conference in New York, and Howard Stern sent one of his reporters, Benji, to cover it. And so Benji shows up, and Roger Goodell is doing the announcement, and he's, I've got a question. And they're like, who? He's like, I'm Benji. I'm Benji. They're like, oh, that guy's from Howard Stern. Like, sorry, you're gonna have to leave. And some guys came and they take him out. They're like, wait, where are you guys taking me? Don't take me to the elevator. Don't take me to the elevator. Very funny.
Wow.
One of my favorite moments. In
Oh
Broadway.
my God.
Uh,
Yeah, so I'm in West Virginia, AJ's in Tennessee, and Dan is in Maryland.
for all intents and
In
purposes,
Mary's land.
you should say that I'm in DC, and you're in
DC.
DC. We're on
Sort
other
of.
sides of it. You're in Greater DC.
Yeah.
You
DC
work in
Metro.
DC.
One day a week.
Yeah, I
That's-
mean that's more than anywhere else except for your house.
Yeah. So I claim West Virginia.
Yeah.
As my sovereign land.
It's almost heaven.
It is almost heaven. Let's see.
Other big things in the news.
Yeah, so the leader of communist China, Xi Jinping, is taking his unprecedented, well,
Third.
wa- unprecedented since Mao, third term as premier of China, and
You watched that thing where they had what's his name dragged out of the meeting?
yeah. So previous
God.
premier Hu Jintao was sitting
Who
to the
isn't
left.
that huge? Sorry.
Wow. Uh, so Hu Jintao was sitting next to him on his left side during the final session of the People's Congress, and all of a sudden, the guy comes up from behind him with a red folder in his hand and basically tells him he's got to go. And he looks very confused. Now, Hu Jintao is very old, and
79, I think.
but he didn't seem to be even very good. That's the story, that he was not in very good health, and that's why he was taken away.
Yeah,
You didn't hear a shot in the background, so at least we
thank
know that
goodness. But I mean, there was very loud music played. So,
it could be.
um, I mean, the best thing I've heard is that it's pretty dark humor, but he had sometimes when you're 79, not all your control of your bodily functions are as good as you'd like them to be. And if you're sitting next to the prime minister, he's not going to put up with that.
Yeah,
I did have that thought because Charlie and I watched it together, and he was like, "He looks like just a confused old man." I was like, "I kind of wonder if there wasn't an incontinence episode." And they were like, "No, no, no, we got to get you out of here." And I don't know if it would necessarily be to save his dignity thing. It's probably exactly what you said, where it was like,
he's
he's
not
not
gonna
going to put up with that.
Right.
yeah,
Right. But I mean, they did get him out nicely, if that's what happened.
yeah,
If I were the Chinese government, that's the propaganda I would put out.
yeah.
On
Um,
the other hand,
but, there's interesting public protest of this leading up to the People's Congress, on bridges in Beijing. There were signs put out saying, basically in a lockdown. Now, people in the United States complained about the lockdowns and all that stuff. Nowhere near the level of what they did in China. So whenever there's a detected case of COVID within China in these massive cities that they have, um, the well, the building, like, say the somebody in a building is diagnosed with COVID, they lock that entire building down. Like, weld the doors shut. You can't go out. You're forced to do testing daily, and they won't open those doors until a sufficient period of time after the last COVID case is cleared. And people are quite frankly tired of it. I mean, yes, the government is bringing them some supplies and stuff like that during this, but I mean, really, these people are prisoners in their own homes. So there's been a backlash, and
it's been harsh.
yeah, the bridge protest is kind of caught on and it's gone around the world. There was a protest outside the Chinese embassy in Britain, and apparently one of the Chinese consuls dragged a protester in and started beating the hell out of him. And it caused quite a row with the British government. So, with the instability of the British government, that also is, kind of makes them look weak. As how are you going to respond to this, ambassador kicking the shit out of maybe a Chinese citizen, but they're in your country. So how you should be taking care of your folks, but they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately China has a history of, uh, you know, not being tolerant at all with uprisings, any political sentiment that is anything other than what you know what dear leader wants you to have.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be nice if there were some opposition, but I don't think this old guard, this is still the Tiananmen generation.
Yeah.
I don't think they're likely to put up with any of this stuff anytime soon.
But you know what? The thing with China right now is that they have major economic problems. And that growth that they had throughout the last 2 decades is not going to last on the levels that they have been, and they have been, the evergreen scandal that's been going on in China for ages now, uh, threatens to really just destroy the housing market in China. Um, it could get bad very fast there. Uh, Now, one thing that Xi Jinping has been doing is really consolidating power underneath him to make sure that if things do go bad, he can, you know, and send the military off to bash people's heads in. But yeah, it's a very interesting time right now for China. People think that China is kind of this inevitable thing, but there's a lot of risk in China right now.
Yeah, I think that there's risk, but the thing about it is they have such a tightly controlled economy that they're not going to outproduce the West, but they're certainly not going to starve or they're not talking about hard times worse than what the Chinese have experienced in the past. We talked earlier. We opened the show talking about England. Boy, China had it bad for a long time. I mean, China still has it bad. You go to the villages in China, and it's
Oh yeah,
astonishing how backwards they are. Right? Still no running water, no electricity. Uh, you know, terrible sanitation. They talk about this a lot. That so many villagers still depend on streams for their basic water, but they don't understand the ideas of this is your running water system, so don't defecate in it or defecate downriver or
that's not
there's
a candy bar.
exactly the Spalding, don't touch it. um Sorry. uh
Yuki.
anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. China's a complicated problem, but hopefully they're not looking at Ukraine and saying, "Oh, so we could take Taiwan right now."
Yeah. Taiwan is interesting because they're really going into self-defense mode. They like the citizens there are signing up for self-defense classes, learning how to do, you know, uh, basic medical triage, firing weapons, how to really be
Yeah.
kind of that mercenary, melt into the trees and cause as
Now,
much problem with the Chinese as possible.
is Taiwan a nuclear power?
No.
I mean, it's interesting. They certainly have the capacity. They have 3 operable nuclear reactors.
I mean,
Um,
maybe it would be interesting to say, the Chinese
but
started
they do
making
not.
a.
Yeah, they do not say that. They say that they do not have nuclear weapons.
They say they do not. Cool.
Yeah.
I feel comforted.
Well,
Concealed carry.
yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Well, I mean, it's interesting because as Ron Paul says, why does North Korea want nuclear weapons? Because look how differently we treat them than the way we treat Iran, who doesn't have nuclear weapons.
Yep.
And so, Taiwan wants respect. They had nuclear weapons. China would be a lot more respectful of them if they had nuclear weapons. But
this is true.
it makes things a lot more unsafe.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
true. Yep. All right. Well, I think we've run to the end of the show. I appreciate everybody watching. Hey, if you're out there on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, wherever, please hop onto my YouTube page. Uh, yes, youtube.com/Papaduke. Like, share, subscribe, click the bell for reminders of when we go live. Uh, the promise is 100 subscribers, I go shaving. So you want to see me fresh faced for the election
Dude,
show? Hop on.
I got that many sock accounts.
There you go.
Ah.
I will do it. I won't shave my eyebrows though. I won't shave
All
my
right.
head.
I will shave nothing. So,
There you go.
go to do that.
Say
Yeah,
good night,
so-
Gracie.
Good night, Gracie. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you all next week with one of our pre-election specials. Take it easy.